Let's move on to the second main topic today. And our second main topic today is sent to us by Lance D, who writes, there's been a lot of talk the last couple of days about Jared Leto being pissed about the new Joker movie, and everyone is crapping on Leto for it. But I just read an article that took a different point of view on the situation that lays out why Leto had absolutely every right to be angry and was completely screwed over by Warner Brothers. Just wanted to know if you've read the article and what you think of it. All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Lance. And as a matter of fact, I have read that article. And the article, unless I'm completely wrong, but the article in question that Lance is talking about came to us from our friends over at Cinema Blend. Cinema Blend put a really interesting article together that basically walks through, Jared Leto's experience with Warner Brothers as Joker. Now, in recent days, we've heard that Jared Leto was furious about the new Joker movie, which we knew a year ago. I mean, we knew that a year ago. A bunch of other things as well. And honestly, we as fans are so fickle. The only reason we're holding that against Jared Leto is because we like the movie Joker. If we didn't like the movie Joker, we all would be hailing Jared Leto as a hero and talking about how everybody should have listened to him. But that said, the way this article takes a different point of view on it from Cinema, and I encourage everybody to go over to Cineblend and read it, is basically walks through a timeline of how Jared Leto was lied to by Warner Brothers over and over and over and over again. Like, so many promises were made and so many promises were broken. And whether you love or hated Jared Leto's portrayal as Joker in Suicide Squad, I actually personally liked it myself, but whether you loved or hated, it goes into how absolutely seriously he took that role. That he worshipped the Joker character. He wanted to do something just, and whether you thought he succeeded or not, different issue. But he really did want to do something with it. He really did want to honor it. He really did want to do something cool with it. His role in Suicide Squad was originally much bigger. Of course, we know about all the edits that went through and how, what was it? A music video company eventually came in to change things over. They told him he was going to get a solo movie. They told him there were going to be a couple of spin-offs that he was going to be in. All these things came and went. Tons of his work was left on the scrap room floor. And then he finds out that his own Joker movie is going to be happening by hearing that another Joker movie is happening. Now, anyway, here's a couple of clips from this article that I want to go over here. This is from the Cinematic article, where it's easy to see any move to squash Todd Phillips' Joker, if that in fact actually happened, as sour grapes. But there's certainly more going on than that. There's no good end to this scenario from Leto's perspective. While Phillips' movie was always designed to be something separate from the DCEU characters, that minor detail was never going to matter. If Phillips' movie sucked or bombed, it would only mean stock in the Joker as a character would go down. If the movie was a hit, as it has now been proven to be, then interest in the Joker, that Joker, goes up, but nobody's looking for Leto to reprise his role. It goes on to say, this entire situation was a mess, and it mostly had nothing to do with Jared Leto. It was all about a studio that clearly didn't really know what it wanted and was just throwing things at the wall to see what stuck, which is true. Evidently, Leto's Joker wasn't one of those things that stuck, and that's fine, but I doubt the situation was presented to the actor in that way. One of the things that we, me included, I think you included as well, all of us, one of the things that we as movie fans often do is we jump to emotional plateaus based on headlines, right? We do that. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. We see this movie we love, Joker, which is awesome. And we hear Jared Leto was pissed at it, didn't want it to happen, and immediately we go there. I got to say, I really appreciated this article from that perspective, laying it out, saying, listen, if this was you would have been just as furious. You would have been just as upset. You would have been just as angry. Love or hate what Leto did as Joker, there's no other way to cut this. He got screwed. He got absolutely screwed by Warner Brothers. He was made promises, all this kind of stuff, and then put in these ridiculous, impossible situations. And by the way, one of the things that should be pointed out, he never came out publicly and bashed the new Joker movie. Jared Leto never got on Twitter and said, screw this movie. He never came out. He kept it quiet. He kept it behind closed doors. The other people were reporting stuff, but he never said a thing publicly. And that's important to keep in mind. So, look, what Warner Brothers should or shouldn't have done with the Jared Leto Joker is up for debate. But to me, when I look at the situation, they massively mismanaged it. Whether they did, ultimately came to the right conclusions or not. And I'm just glad that this other point of view on this has come out, because it's become the cool thing to just jump on Jared Leto and bash on him for this. And he did some things wrong. But he was also put in a really bad spot and treated really badly, had a lot of promises broken when he invested a lot of himself into it. Anyway, and this is sort of how I saw it. Rob, you're hearing these sorts of things, and we read the headlines, we read the stories, but what's your take on this whole thing?
Well, it shows actually the high stakes when you're dealing with franchise filmmaking, as you're doing here. An actor is taking a huge risk, both personally and career-wise, to take on a role like this. And if ever anybody followed what Jared Leto was doing as he was playing the Joker during production, he was all in. I mean, this guy... And
a lot of people didn't like what he was doing.
No, they didn't. Like his
but
co-stars,
he was all in.
But he was all in. And if you look at the trailers for Suicide Squad, you can see a lot of incredibly elaborate material they shot with him that never wound up in the finished film.
Yeah.
And the reason you take on these roles, especially after, Jared Leto is whatever you think of him, he's a guy that is, whether it's his band 30 Seconds to Mars or whether it's his roles that he takes, he's not somebody who dabbles. He's never been that way. And to go all in on this, he thought he had a future. This was not a one-off for him. Suicide Squad was a hot mess. It was, like you said, it was totally destroyed and rebuilt in post-production. A lot of what he was doing was left on the cutting room floor. There was no chance that I think we were ever going to see his Joker, but nobody was going to tell him that. His agents are going to want to know, his representation, his lawyers, his manager. They're like, hey, man, we got these signed contracts. We thought you guys were committed. You're even making another Suicide Squad movie. What's up? And I can only imagine. Remember, this is before Walter Hamada took over Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And by all stretches of what I've heard from people that have done business with Warner Brothers, until Walter Hamada came on, it was a mess over there. Nobody did know what was going on. The executives certainly didn't. They're all scrambling. Remember, there was a lot of shenanigans all the way up to the top of the leadership at Warner Brothers that they were dealing with. There was the AT&T merger. They didn't want anything to look bad, so of course they're going to shine him on. Like, no, we're going to do a Joker movie. Until they weren't.
And we're going to do a Joker and Harley movie. And we're going to have you in Suicide Squad 2.
And they're doing, how does he feel that there's a Harley Quinn movie, Birds of Prey got shot, he's not a part of it? Why? For whatever reason, I think he got the shaft on this one. And like you said, he's been quiet. And whether you like Jared Leto or not, and I know there's people that have different things to say about him, he still was all in. And I think this is what happens when a studio is mismanaged, when they're playing the high stakes game of franchise filmmaking, when a movie like Suicide Squad became a liability for everybody that was involved, the executives that were involved, David Ayer, who was the filmmaker. It was a mess. It was a mess, and it has left a lot of blood in its wake, even though it ended up making money.
And we're still talking about it to this day. I mean, and it should be pointed out, too, whereas there are a number of actors who just want to pop up in a comic book movie because it's the big trendy thing and there's a good paycheck attached. He loved the idea of doing this. And again, it made him do some pretty weird things, no doubt. But anyway, Aaron, I know, like, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this particular situation because I literally haven't seen you for 3 weeks, so you walked in the door. But you're seeing something like this, and look, I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of behind-the-scenes drama like this on various sets and movies and TV shows, but what's your impression of all this when you see this?
One of the first things that Lucy Lawless said to me when I got down to New Zealand to shoot Spartacus was, she said, Hollywood, it'll love you like a snake. And she's not wrong. Like, I mean, none of this story is surprising at all. I think that Hollywood is absolutely just as ruthless as Wall Street or any of the, any nefarious industry that you can imagine. Yeah, there's a lot of wonderful things, but there's a lot of people shining you on, telling you what you want to hear, making promises that maybe in that moment they mean, like the number of times that I've had people say to me, oh my God, and then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. And you just go, okay. And again, you guys have already said it. People have differing opinions about Jared Leto. But we have to also remember Jared Leto is an Academy Award winner for playing a very complicated and challenging role.
Yeah.
But even before then, he had an incredible career as a supporting actor, whether it was in Fight Club or in American Psycho or in Requiem for a Dream as a lead actor. There's no denying that he is an incredibly talented actor. I'm sad for him that his Joker was in Suicide Squad, because and everyone that I know who's ever worked for Warner Brothers in a large capacity has always said that they hate working for Warner Brothers, and probably for the reasons, Rob, that you mentioned, because they're all over the place and mismanaged, and also when things are changing hands, one person makes a promise, well then that person gets fired 2 weeks later, and that promise goes away, But yeah, I do think that he got screwed. But I think that anyone who played that role in this film would have gotten screwed. I do want to say, though, about all of his little antics and stuff. Remember when Sean Young really wanted to play Catwoman?
Oh, yes.
And she was willing to do anything. And she showed up to, I believe it was the David Letterman show, dressed as Catwoman. That's kind of what these little antics reek of. Like, you can get into the mindset of a psychopath without having to make life difficult for your co-stars.
Right, exactly.
Like, you can do that on your own time in your own private space, but I think that also adds to why people are like, whatever, it's just Jared Leto. And unfortunately, I think that his stock has taken a big hit because he was in this place where he was really regarded as a serious actor who really got into his characters. But then all of the little hijinks and giving dead rats to people and all that stuff, it kind of made people go, oh, you're just a gimmick guy, when he's not. So I want for Jared Leto to go back and find another Requiem for a Dream type of role that's going to remind everybody of the talent that he truly is.
Maybe that'll be Morbius. Who knows? If Morbius can surprise, who knows? That's the question is, guys, look, there's a lot of different opinions that have been flying around. When you hear a different perspective from it, what does it make you think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.